Hello. Hello, everybody. What is good? Juliana Page here. And I have got all the things right here in front of me to walk you through a process because your hustle and heart will set you apart. Okay? I know. Cheesy, right? But here's the thing. Write the vision and make it plain. That is straight up biblical, right? Now, God's thoughts are not our thoughts. God's ways are not our ways. But part of partnering and dreaming with God is praying about your vision with God and putting it on paper, making it plain in as many ways as you can so that you can run with endurance after that thing. Because it also says that a dream comes with a lot of struggle and toil, right? It's just not handed to you, okay? So we're going to apply our faith towards a vision and a plan. I've had many people ask, girl, like, how do you do all the things? And when they refer to all the things, it's working in nonprofit, it's strategy sessions with multiple people a month, it's mentoring my tribe of women that are running virtual businesses, it's being a accountability partner to folks on their health and wellness journeys, it's being in ministry school, it's serving in ministry, it's all the things, taking care of myself, right? So I'm going to walk you through how I do it. And there's many things that are out there in the world. There's habit stacking. There's a daily routine, a morning routine. There are 12-week year books on this. So there's many resources when it comes to time management, when it comes to visioning. And I want to kind of break down what I do so that I can also check in and have different checkpoints throughout the year. So whether those are quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily, I have different ways to check in too, to just assess the feedback that I've been getting from taking action, okay? Now, at the time that this video is happening, it's halfway through the year of 2020. A lot has happened in 2020. You could have made a vision. So for example, I even have my vision, I turn it into images and I put it on my phone. It's also my computer background. I am somebody that's visual. So if I see it every day on every device, it's a constant reminder of what I'm pushing towards and working towards. But then the other things that I use, I keep it as simple as I can. So I have a 5-subject notebook. I have a cheap planner that you can get from anywhere, just a calendar. I've got Post-its for days. I've got reminders on my phone, and I also use my virtual calendar to give me reminders. So this is what I do. I'll take you through my, how many steps is this? I would say 5-step process. I will take you through 5 steps. I'm like, how many is this? And then I will take you through how I do check-ins too, to make sure all the things happen and that I'm happy with how I spend my time. So for example, just to set this up, I assess, for example, we have 168 hours in a week, okay? So knocking off sleep, then putting in my work hours, putting in my consulting hours, putting in ministry hours, blocking out all my hours so I can see where that time goes. I can then say, where is the extra time going? If there's any extra time, where is there too much time going in case I need to reel some back? And how can I steward well what I've been given so that I don't burn out, so I don't get super stressed, so I can go up and really have the influence that I know that I'm put on this earth to have, okay? So that's really powerful just in the instance of getting clear about how you're actually spending your time, right? And being really, really clear on any time that is idle time where you're just consuming on social media, time where you're just watching TV, reality TV shows, the news, time when you're talking on the phone, time when you're out drinking, time when you're doing things that aren't necessarily giving you a return, right? When you watch TV, what is the return on your investment of time? That would be my question. When you're going out drinking, what is the return on your time? In a sense, you look at it and money went out, time went out, your energy, your focus went out, but what came in? This is real talk, okay? So when you think about that, here's the thing. When you have a vision, when you have a dream, when you have a plan, when you're running after a legacy and real life change, stuff like that is going to start to matter to you on a whole nother level, okay? And you'll check into your hustle, but a lot of heart will be in it, all right? So first step, just for awareness, this would be the bonus step to the 5 steps, okay? So this is preparation for the 5 steps. I would assess currently where your time is going. No judgment-free zone, but assess where your time is going, and then decide if you're happy about that. Decide if that's satisfying, and also really determine if that is going to be the best way to close the gap on where you are to where you want to be. Is the way you're showing up now and spending your time going to be what closes the gap from where you are to where you want to be? Okay? All right, so that was preparation. Now let's go to step 1. Step 1, usually for me, looks like this. Blank sheet of paper. And what I do is I just pray. I invite Holy Spirit into this time, and I ask for vision. I ask for revelation. I ask for clarity on how I'm being prepared, on where I'm headed, and what it looks like for me to rise up, right? To arise and shine. What does it look like for me to arise and take hold of that promise? Okay. So I'm praying about that. And if you haven't heard of it, I really love prophetic soaking. I know Graham Cook does a lot of great prophetic soaking on YouTube, so you can kind of find it that way. But usually it's either declarations that are tied to the Word of God, because the Word of God does not return void, or it could just be worship or praise music without lyrics, and you can just shut your eyes and set a timer. I like 20 minutes. 10 is just about where I start getting into it, because it takes me a minute to ease in. So I recommend 20, because by the time you get in, then you can start really letting your imagination go with God, right? And you can receive downloads, you can receive strategies, you can just be open and available for God to reveal things to you. So that's what I recommend. And the whole point of having a blank page is so that you can jot these things down. Don't do it in the middle, because you'll disrupt the process, right? But after you're done for that 20 minutes, then that is when you'll just jot these things down. Okay? Got it? All right. So now is when you make that practical. So that was step 1. This is step 2. Step 2 is deciding anywhere from 3 to 5 goals that are being highlighted to you. And usually that for me is 3 to 5 areas of my life that are being highlighted, where my focus needs to be directed, where my time needs to be directed, where resource needs to be directed, okay? So what are those areas? I'll give you some examples. They could be your health. They could be relationships. They could be your finances or your income. They could be your businesses, could be your ministry, could be your job or your career, could be travel, an adventure, could be community and community building, could be service and volunteering, could be hobbies, right? Whatever it is, the areas that are highlighted to you that need some work, jot them down. I don't recommend doing more than 5. 3 is a solid set, to be real, but if you need some bonus, you can do 5, okay? So write down those areas. Then for each area, what I want you to do, and I'll kind of walk you through some of mine. So in each area, you're going to write down the goals that you have for those areas. So in business, what are your goals? In your health, what are your goals? And these are tangible things. So what are they? Just make them plain. Get them on paper. Write them down, okay? For your income, what are your income goals, right? Like put down numbers. For relationships, what are those goals? Okay? Got it? All right. Then once you do that for each category, okay, so right now you're going to have at least 3 categories, and you're going to write down what the goals are underneath each of those categories. Then I set up a column next to that that's just tactics or strategies or ways basically that you're going to close the gap from where you are to those goals that you have. What are your tactics or your strategies to do that? And this is a brain dump. This is not deciding what's practical. This isn't deciding if you can or can't do it, if you're going to have time to do it. This isn't deciding if you have resource to do it. This is just putting down, what could you do if there were no limits? What could you do to close this gap? Okay, so I will walk you through. I happen to write it down on like 2 pages, and I just pick 5 things. So this side, this side is all of the categories, and then I have all of the tactics for how I am going to close the gap. All right, so I will walk you through what I am doing for me, and I'll just let you know. So for business, that was one of my goals, and I have a couple of consulting businesses that I have. So I kind of did a line and made those separate. So working with 10 clients a month, taking 10 people through my self-mastery course, and booking 6 speaking engagements. All right. Now, the tactics for me to get there, I am creating my own business activity tracker so I can be tracking daily how I'm doing with these activities. I am investing in a brand building company to continue to expose myself to knowledge, to have accountability, to have a coach, because as a coach, I work well having that kind of covering. So I'm putting that in my life. I'm also putting skin in the game. Facebook ads and just investing in advertising. So setting aside money to do that. Sharing more testimonials. I work with so many humans that have these radical breakthroughs, and I don't often share them. So sharing them more in posts on social media, sharing them in my own life, kind of like a record of wins. And I am working on my next book. So that's part of what I'm doing, just literally scheduling time every week, because that's part of my business, and creating more streams of income. And then also offering free workshops so people can understand. I know for me, in the beginning, I needed like a taste of what coaching is. I didn't even know what that was, but I live by it now. So doing free workshops so people can try it on for size, right? So that is one consulting business. Another one, I work in the health and wellness space. So helping at least 5 people every month. 5 new clients is my goal with that. Helping my current team that I mentor really increase their leadership capacity and feel confident and supported. So putting systems in place to really help them do that, or just being present so that they know they're not alone. Yeah, so here's some of the tactics to do that. Doing daily impact hours with them. So I'll have a couple during the week where I'm actually present doing it with them, and that's sort of modeling the way. So in other times when we're not together, they have that example. And updating videos. Video is one of the best ways to share messages. Not everybody can hop on the phone. It doesn't always work. So I have found that makes a lot of sense. So doing videos and being able to email those out to people so that I can connect. I'm such a one-on-one person. So that's kind of the next best thing. And also really being sensitive to people's schedules right now so they can kind of consume that information and digest it and reflect on it when the time is right for them. Updating. What else? Updating my email flow and the links and things that I have in there, just testing it out again and make sure it's the most efficient that it can be. And then also putting more accountability in place. So whether that's check-in posts or whatever it happens to be, that's a way to really assess where people are at without me constantly having to chase people down. So these are things that I can put into place, right? That's an example with business, okay? What else? Hopefully that's enough to give you an example. But for health, I'll do health next, just so you have at least one more example. I love me a morning routine, okay? And I know that it used to create a lot of anxiety for me when I didn't have a morning routine, because it just felt like the minute I wake up, I'm just rushing and working with a sense of urgency on somebody else's agenda. And then I never had one, right? So I was barely taking care of myself. Sometimes I don't know if I was eating. I would skip workouts. Like I just was not taking care of myself. I was not being still and just like getting clear. So that did not work for me at all. So I found that I had to get up earlier so that I had a significant window. I'm not talking 15 minutes. I mean like 3-hour time window before a majority of my day was dedicated to somebody else. And then having also an evening routine. So perfecting that, having more quiet time. I find that the more that I'm doing and the more public facing I am, the more that I'm serving and doing things, the more quiet time I actually need. That's the introvert in me. Drinking more water. I don't have it with me. This like big jug that's helping me do that. It even gives me encouragement, which I love. Apparently I'm a words of affirmation girl. Feeding my sense of adventure. I am a very adventurous person. So making sure that that gets met. Community, getting in daily workouts. I don't drink alcohol. What else? Yeah, so continuing on that path. So tactics, I do daily declarations. So refining the declarations, and I like switching it up and memorizing the word. More time for prayer, less consumption. So whenever I'm tempted to, watch sermons or kind of like zone out, whatever my zone out thing is, doing less consumption and more creating, doing more soaking. So much happens powerfully when I just like soak in the word. So doing more of that, doing more writing. So setting another writing schedule, because I do so well when I have a writing schedule, strangely enough. Being fixed and focused on joy, because the joy of the Lord is my strength. So guarding my mouth and kind of keeping an inventory about what I'm talking about a majority of the time so that I can catch it where I'm not talking about circumstances, I'm not speaking negativity, I'm not speaking cursing out of my mouth. So really, really not creating a lot of room for negative thinking and speaking. And then prophecy, spending more time in prophecy and speaking life. And then also ministry school. So I am in my 3rd year of ministry school, and that is health because I'm being fed. We need to feed daily, right, on the word of God. So I know sometimes for me, especially if I'm doing a lot in business or whatever, I need to put a buffer where I'm getting 3 times the amount of word or spiritual buffer that I need so I can thrive in those other things, right? Because unless the Lord builds the house, it will not stand, okay? And I just need my armor on, and I need to fight differently because we don't wrestle with flesh and blood, right? All right, so if it starts in the spiritual, I need to be way more spiritual about what I am doing. So just to give you an example, write down again at least 3 areas of your life that are being highlighted to you from that preparation visioning piece, right? Where you pray, you invite God in, you get that direction, good orderly direction. Then you the goals for each one of those areas without stopping yourself, just make a list. And then you write down a list of tactics, okay, to close the gap. Now, once you've done that, and what I'm doing, I do actually like the book, The 12-Week Year. So what I did was I decided from now until October 7th. October 7th is when I'm going to complete these things by, okay? So the next thing that I do is I get a calendar like this. It's super plain, but I always like extra area where I can write and make things super plain. And this happens to flip really easy, so it can go all the way to October. So I can outline all these things. So usually what I do is I write down like the big goals. So whether that's 5 new clients, 10 people completing the course, podcast episodes, YouTube episodes, like I'm putting that all up here is like the main things that I'm going to do. And then I block on the calendar when I'm doing these things so that they're going to happen. Now, so this is step 3. You basically take the tactics that you wrote down. So essentially I could put, let's say even on this weekend, that on Saturday is going to be when I'm going to write down these declarations. Maybe it's going to be when I put my deposit into ministry school, so I'm committed, right? So like I'm putting down all my tactics on here. Maybe it's going to be when I make the new videos so that my team any new client can be onboarded well without necessarily having to spend so much time hopping on the phone. So I'm going to block time where I make those. Make sense? So that's what you do. That's step 3, where you actually move your tactics onto your calendar. Okay. So then number 4 is where I bring the Post-its into play. Now, I'm one of those weirdos where if it's virtual, you can kind of just move something over if you don't get it. But at least it happens in that month. If it's not that day or even that week, it'll still get done within that month. The next thing that I do is I make this a to-do list. I literally put on here to-do list, and I come up with the top 3 things that are important for me to do each day. So this is something that I just keep handy. So I have this for the top things that are important to do each day. And I put this in my master planner, which is not this, but I put this in my master planner and I just stick it there so that it gets done. That could be a phone call, that could be updating something, that could be sending out a newsletter, whatever it is. But I put those main things down there, so I'm going to get them done. If I can't do it that day, I can simply like move the Post-it, but it's still going to get done that week. Okay. So I make with this, what I do is I make my to-do list for the month. Okay. And I usually, because I write small, I usually divide this out into my 3 big areas. So the top one, let's say it'll be business, it'll be health, maybe it's relationships, whatever it is. And I'm putting all of the monthly goals on here, and then I'm sticking that on my calendar like this. And then they're all going to be on there. Okay. So essentially, you turn your tactics into to-dos. So I not only write down on the calendar when I'm going to make them happen, I just look at this, and usually I'll do this kind of at the end of a month. So I usually do it about now for August, okay? Because we're at the end of July. So that's kind of how I do it. And then this is step 5. So once everything is on a note card, I also move it to my phone so that I have reminders and things to do. I literally book appointments with myself. I don't care what it is. If it's podcasts, if it's YouTube videos, if it's a action hour, if it's team call, if it's the strategy sessions that I have with folks, whatever it is, if it's a creative time block, I block it all on my calendar. Even declarations, I plug them into my phone so they come up as reminders. And then I just declare it. Okay. So that would be step 5. You can, if you don't put it on your phone, I still recommend having something that is virtual that still sends you a reminder. So whether that is Outlook, whether that's Google Calendar, it doesn't matter, but somehow you want this to also be virtual so that you don't need to carry this with you wherever you go. It can also be on your phone. Okay. So this is how I do the things. And then I assess what's working and what's not working, and I make adjustments. Okay. So that is typically, I also love using, if I'm not using Post-its, I also use index cards because I can put so much on these too. So sometimes this is where my books start out, just on index cards. I don't know how it happens, but it happens that way. So really, though, it's whatever works for you. But I found that the more practical, the more visual I can make it, the more I'll commit to it. Because if we don't plan, we're basically planning to fail. And what I mean by that is if you don't have anything that you're aiming towards, how are you ever going to hit your target? Right? Or if you don't have any way to assess what you've been doing with your time, how you've been showing up, how you've been investing your energy, how can you really reflect on how you're showing up, really assess if that's how you want to be spending your time or if it's the most efficient use of your time? How are you gonna know? I don't think you'll know. Just saying. And then you wake up and you're just frustrated that you're not hitting your income goals, that you're not hitting your business goals, that your relationship hasn't changed, that your health is still where it was. So it is so, so important to get clear. And that's also where confidence comes from, because when you're clear, then you can take the action. And then when you take the action, you keep promises with yourself and you build what I call integrity momentum. And that kind of momentum is the best kind of momentum. And it's momentum of alignment. It's momentum of peace. It's momentum of fulfillment. So, so good. And that translates to these other areas of your life too. So let's recap, shall we? Hustle and heart will set you apart, right? Truly though, it absolutely will. Your heart and your heart position, your attitude, It's a deal breaker. It's a difference maker. It's all the things. And you've got to have hustle, meaning not like you're competing against anybody but yourself, but you've got to put in action. You don't want to just be reading books and never applying things. You don't want to just be watching TV and never advancing and growing and developing. You don't want to be in relationships where you're just repeating cycles, right? Like there's growth, there's development. So you really need to be intentional and clear about it. All right. So step one is inviting God into the process. We don't want to be in the habit and practice of building our own dreams, our own plans, having all of these expectations and then expectation hangovers and getting impatient and getting frustrated and future tripping and all this nonsense, right? Just wasted time and energy. We want to invite God in because we're here by God's power and for God's glory. So start with God. Don't run to God when you need God. Start with God, okay? So give yourself at least 20 minutes to dream with God, okay? What are secret petitions of your heart that you have? What are these dreams that you've been putting on the back burner? Who is it that you really desire to become, right? Just dream about that. Give yourself at least 20 minutes. Then when you do that, get out some journal. Doesn't have to be pretty, like I said. Mine's just like a little guy from the store, 5-subject notebook. So whatever you got, I'm not a big person of all the different kinds of planners. You just got to find what works for you. And I find that as simple as possible is the best thing that works for me. So write down your top 3 areas that have been highlighted to you in that quiet time that you had. Okay, so I mentioned business, health, relationship, whatever they are for you, okay? Then you're going to write down your goals, so those are big goals where you want change. Then you're going to write down your goals that you have in every one of those areas, okay? So that you have an idea of what is the target that you're trying to hit in these next 6 months. Got it? Cool, all right? And I was following the 12-week year, like I mentioned. So I blocked out all of these tactics between now and October 7th. So that would be the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to write down all of your tactics to close the gap on these things within the next 6 months, right? And then what you're going to do, I think that ends up being, if I'm following the 12-week year, that ends up being, let me see, 1, yeah, that ends up being a 12-week year, okay? So write down your tactics. Then what you're going to do is you're going to migrate your tactics from your notebook to your calendar, okay? Then you're going to make your to-do list for the month and stick this on your calendar. And this is going to have all of those 3 areas. You can just draw like a line and write what all those are and stick it on your calendar. And then from there, what you're going to do is you're going to take it virtual so that it's not just on paper in case you misplaced this or something. It's also on your phone. So you get these reminders and so that you can always move it manually and you can also move your Post-it as you need to, okay? But let's say you've got from your 3 different goal areas and then all your tactics, let's say you've got 20 things listed here. You might not get all 20, but at least you get 10 and you're way further than you would be, right? So the point is to get it all out as clearly as possible. And then you start hitting goals to close the gap. All right. So 1, vision with God. 2, write down the 3 areas that were highlighted and all of the goals that you have in each area. 3, write down the tactics. 4, move the tactics to your calendar. And 5, create your to-do list. And I create the to-do list for the month, for the week, and for the day. But I usually write the to-do list for the month on here. And then you can obviously see the weeks. And then I usually do to-do lists each day. But it helps because I also get reminders on my phone. Now, what this also does is it helps you be disciplined with your time. You know what you can say yes to. You know when you have to say no because you are prioritizing you and your dreams and these areas that are really important to you. So you can really be clear. You can let your yes be yes and your no be no, like the word says, right? And there is nothing that compares to being in alignment and having peace and knowing that you are living each day maxed out, right? You're living life to the fullest. You're being present. You're being intentional. You're open for God to change the plan, because we can write the vision and make it plain, but God can still navigate us and adjust us, right? As we are going along the journey. Okay. So be prepared for that to change too. But you've got to have something that you're running after, and you've got to be clear, because from that clarity, not only is power to take the action, but you also build confidence and you stay in integrity with what you said you're going to do. All right. So hopefully this helps you. I know that it's brought so much more freedom to my life when I can see where all this time is going and where it needs to be adjusted. And sometimes it's just like the 2 millimeter shifts, these little shifts that make all of the difference. So you've got your assignment. You know what to do. There's still plenty of time to hit your goals, to take a look again at your vision board and see where you're at and how you can close those gaps. All right. So I hope this blessed you. If you're not already, you can follow me over at Miss Juliana Page on Instagram, also on Facebook. You can listen every Saturday to Spirit-Filled Real Talk. It's a podcast where we talk about that, Spirit-Filled Real Talk. So we go into different areas and really how we can lean in and be living a spirit-led life, right? In a world that often lives countercultural. So how do you do that, right? So that's a great podcast. JulianaPage.com also is where the self-mastery course is. It's where my consulting services are and strategy sessions are and how I operate with that. It's also where I do workshops and a lot of speaking engagements as well. So go check out those things. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure that you do that. And if this video blessed you, or if you know and can think of somebody in your mind who could really use this video, make sure that you copy the link and share it with a friend. All right, guys.